Welcome everybody who's coming in now. We're just going to wait like 2 or 3 minutes and then we will get started.
Perfect.
Okay, well, I think we can get started and more people will enter as time goes on. So thank you everybody who's here today. If you're from 4Geeks Academy, welcome. And if you are new, then welcome to our workshops as well. So if you don't know me, my name is Alyssa. I'm the campus manager for 4Geeks Academy. 4Geeks is a coding bootcamp located in Brickell in Miami. We have a full stack developer program and a machine learning artificial intelligence program. In addition to our Miami campus, we have 10 locations across 7 different countries. So we have campuses in North, South, and Central America, as well as Europe. And we have over 2,000 graduates that have completed our program. 4Geek usually hosts 3 to 4 events per month. Sometimes they are online like this one. Sometimes they are hybrid where we have it at our Brickell campus and we have food and drinks. And we also stream it for people who are not in Miami so that you can still attend. So the theme of our event today, obviously, is networking, how to network properly. And we're welcoming Katie from Career Sprout. She's one of the founders and a career coach at Career Sprout. So I will turn the event over to her and let her teach you guys how to network.
Awesome. Thank you, Alyssa, so much for having us, or I guess having me here this time. And I will go ahead and dive right in. So I'm going to be presenting for the bulk of this, but any questions that you guys have, any questions that come up, definitely just put them in the chat and we will make sure we've got plenty of time at the end to cover anything and everything that comes up. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and dive in here. If you guys could just let me know if you can see my screen. Once I'm sharing, I can't see you guys, so if somebody would be kind enough to just unmute, yes, that would be super helpful. Perfect. All right, then we can dive in here. As you can tell, I'm not going to use the word networking in this presentation for a couple of different reasons. Well, I use it sometimes, but typically what we call it is proactive outreach, because most people have this awful feeling that comes with networking, and we've made it really simple so that you don't have to have any of those awful feelings that come up. So today is all about unlocking what we call the secret job market by using proactive outreach 101. So this is for you if you want to unlock the 70% of jobs that aren't listed online. That number has been quoted as high as I've seen 85% and as low as about 60%. But a lot of jobs aren't listed online for a couple of reasons. One, they're made on the spot because somebody interviews really well. Or two, quite frankly, I don't know if any of you have been employers before or in HR before, but if you have ever posted a job listing online, the amount of unqualified people and just crummy applicants that come through is suffocating for a lot of companies. So they get around that by working off of networking. So this is also for you if you don't want to waste countless hours just applying for jobs, playing the whole apply and wait game. And if you are actively looking to get your foot in the door with companies that you actually admire so you can really build a meaningful career. So I mentioned to a couple of you who were on earlier, this used to be about a 2-hour workshop. We have condensed pretty much all of our workshops down to about 45 minutes. So this will be very action-packed. I'm going to move through things very quickly, and any questions that you have, we'll have plenty of time for them at the end. So we're going to cover how to prepare for your proactive outreach. There's a couple things you have to do before you message people, who to reach out to, how to reach out to them, and then what to say in your messages. So we pretty much follow specific scripts and frameworks templates so that you don't have to awkwardly say like, hey, how's the weather down in Miami today? And then of course the do's and don'ts of follow-up. So this is going to be everything you need to know about networking so that you can land a $10,000 to $100,000 plus in some cases pay increase using proven, predictable, repeatable systems instead of guesswork and rejection. So a couple of house rules. This is definitely not how do you get paid undeservingly. This is definitely not how do you do nothing and trick a company into paying you. We really only provide this information if you are ready to provide real value to the companies to get these pay increases that we're talking about. That means you've got to be happy, humble, and hungry to actually solve problems and provide value. If that is not you, now is probably the time to hop off. We are definitely against helping people land jobs so that they can just scroll TikTok all day and fake a company into paying them. Unless you want to work at TikTok, then that may be part of your job. Also, I'm going to go through some case studies throughout this to use examples and specific scripts and different things that specific students have used. I want to really emphasize this though. These are people who put in work. A lot of people will show up to workshops, they love getting all this information, and then they do nothing with that information. It is 100% up to you to take this and actually implement it. So in order for you to get the results that we're going to share along the way, you have to, first of all, do the work. Second of all, ditch what we call the old model of job transitions. So the outdated old model for job searches starts with applying to as many jobs as possible, job hopping from one company to another every couple of years to get slightly higher salaries at each one or slight benefits, getting burnt out from spending more time searching and applying for these jobs than actually interviewing and connecting with the companies and the individuals within that company. The old model is also focusing more on what you don't want versus what you actually want. It's very easy to have a long list of grievances. It's a lot harder to have a list of what's really important to you. Also outdated to rely on online applications, especially the one-click applications. Those are not beneficial and as a general rule do not result in landing a job. Also, once you get a job, the old model for a lot of folks was landing a job, landing an interview, getting nervous, going in underprepared, and completely bombing the interview. And then you get stressed out because you haven't heard back from a company that you interview at. Then you end up asking a few friends if they know someone who's hiring, and then they end up accepting the first job that comes across the table because it ends up being the only option that they get. So if all of that or any of that sounds familiar, that is the old model. So our goal today is to completely get rid of that and move you guys to the new model. And a big portion of that comes from proactive outreach. So that's going to give you control over who you work with, how you work with them, the salary you command. And our goal is to always future-proof your career so you don't have to worry about losing a job. You don't have to worry about getting rejected. You never have to worry about settling. And here's what that looks like, a quick overview. So first and foremost, and it's very important that we do these steps in order, and then you'll see where the networking step fits in here. First and foremost is getting career clarity. Very important that you look at your life and your career holistically so that you know where you are growing to, and you have a measuring stick for every opportunity that comes across. You should know, hey, this is moving me closer to my goal, or this is moving me further from my goal. That's got to be step one. Step two is making sure that you've got a really compelling narrative in both your resume and your LinkedIn profile. We now are in a world where a lot of the networking that happens in the job transition world happens online, and you need to have a profile so that recruiters, hiring managers, executives, potential peers, just anybody who comes across you very clearly and quickly sees exactly why you would be a good fit for the companies that you're looking at. And then we get to step three. And this is where we're going to spend bulk of our time, but I didn't want to leave you guys hanging here on the step 1 and 2, because anybody who skips either or both of those steps has a really hard time managing their networking properly. And so that's where we're going to spend bulk of our time. And then, of course, when you do those steps properly, you start landing interviews. So it's all about making sure you master that interview and then being able to negotiate a competitive offer. So this is the new model, not the old model that comes with all the stress. But the best part about this is it's proven, it's predictable, which means I know with 100% certainty whether or not somebody has actually followed each of these steps, because it legitimately works every single time. That's why it's really important for you to make sure you do steps 1 and 2 before the networking. Also means you don't have to worry about saying yes to the first offer you get, because it is not going to be your only one. You don't have to worry whether or not you're going to get another company to give you a shot. When you do this properly, you will have several offers on the table at any given time. And the reason why this model is so effective is because most people simply don't know their actual worth or their growth potential. And this is an example that I love to, well, I don't love to share it. I love to share it because it paints a picture. Don't love to share it because it happens all the time and it's super crummy. This post went viral earlier this year for somebody who was offered $85,000 for a job that actually had a budget of $130,000. Now, this happened in a candidate-driven market. Job market's a lot like the housing market. Sometimes it's a buyer's market, sometimes it's a seller's market. It will fluctuate. We will go back to an employer-driven market eventually. Nobody knows exactly when, but it does ebb and flow. Very important for you to know what your skills are worth, especially when we transition into that employer market. You need to know what you're actually worth, and you have to make sure you're doing those steps efficiently so you're not burned out by the time you get to the offer table and just end up settling. I mean, that's a significant amount of money for somebody to miss just because they didn't know, hey, this is what you already have, the skills, the experience that this person has was worth, what is that, $45,000 more than what they accepted. So we're going to make sure from this point forward, this never happens. Here's a couple of examples for you guys, especially I know a lot of you guys are coming here because you just learned a new skill or you leveled up. And a lot of times you think, I need to get like that entry level position, stay there for a while. Not always the case. There are plenty of folks, especially if you are somebody who you have past work experience, whether it doesn't matter if it's a different industry, different field, you most likely have things that can transfer over. So I wanted to just highlight a couple of these folks where this is somebody who went from a brand new industry. They were a mechanical engineer and they were sick and tired of it, but they were still able to increase and go from $97,000 to $184,000 in a completely new field. Somebody else, this was actually somebody straight out of college who they were doing a ton of activity as soon as they implemented this networking component that you guys are about to learn and they interviewed properly. They were able to land their work with their dream company, getting their dream job that had with plenty of growth opportunities. Somebody else, 4 years out into a new field, they were able to grow to 7 figures. Stuff like this happens all the time when you implement what you guys are going to learn tonight, I guess. Learn it and consistently do it. That's really the most important part. It's not enough to just do it once. You have to be consistently doing these things. So why should you listen to a word I say? My name is Katie McIntyre. I am a Forbes Coaches Council member. And more importantly, I work with a company called Career Sprout, where we have helped over 500 professionals land high-paying job offers. On average, it takes us about 63 days, far shorter than the average, which is 5 to 18 plus months for a lot of professionals. And on average, we're able to increase salaries by about $37,000 for folks. More importantly, though, setting people up for growth. So these people are landing jobs from companies that they really admire and where there's plenty of growth opportunities. And most importantly, I am not one of those gurus that just talks about myself. Actually, the last slide on here, unless you guys have other questions, I guess we could ask those at the end. Everything we talk about is our students. We are super proud of them. We are super proud of the work that they have put in to get these types of results, going from $80,000 to $170,000, again, completely switching industries. The reason why I want to share this with you guys is because a bulk of what we're going to talk through, people don't have rational arguments for why it doesn't work. They have these things made up in their brain. They have a lot of biases in their brain. So our goal today is to get you past those, show you enough results that your brain is like, okay, fine. If they can do it, I can do it. If he can do it, I can do it. And this is somebody speaking as an introvert. I know a lot of folks who are on here or just tend towards these fields tend to be a little bit more introverted. So the networking stuff feels insurmountable. Trust me, I am as INTJ as they come for those of you who are into the Myers-Briggs, and you can get past it. So here's just a couple of other folks. Again, brand new field, switching from IT consultant to product manager. Took her about 2 months to go from 115 to 140. And this is somebody, she had actually never made more than $200,000, but here's the cool part. They offered her 218. She never made that much money, and she was still able to negotiate it up to 235 because that's what we knew she was actually worth. So that is just the tip of the iceberg. As I mentioned, just in the last 3 years, we've helped over 500 professionals increase their salary by about $37,000 in 63 days using this process. So 5-step process, obviously. So how does your proactive outreach, your networking fit into this process, and how important is it? Fortunately for you guys, not so fortunate for people who don't know this, proactive outreach is typically the biggest factor of success in your job search, especially when you do it properly and you follow the formula that we're going to cover today. So first and foremost, let's define this new proactive outreach method. You want to think about this as intentional networking. This is not about building a repertoire of, thousands of people that you don't really know. You want to cultivate a powerful network of people that you can actually speak with. This is going to be peers, professionals, executives, mentors, coaches, people who can help you move along your career path quicker. And something that I really want to emphasize, and I've got a couple of examples of this, who you know today does not necessarily matter, but who you know is generally the most important factor of your job search. This includes getting interviews, getting advice for interviews, promotion opportunities, just really hedging against not knowing what you don't know, right? Hedging against those losses of figuring out everything on your own. So I say who you know today doesn't matter, but who you know, and making sure that you have a system or a lever that you can pull to consistently increase who you know along the quantity of people, I should say, over time of who you know along your career path. So this is somebody, he actually didn't even apply for this role. This is where I was saying your proactive outreach has the biggest impact on whether or not you're going to move forward. And so he was able to reach out to this person. You can see down here at the bottom, I should have circled it or something. His process was he cold outreach to a brand new person. That person was able to facilitate an introduction, get him the interview, gave him the job offer, and he had a $100,000 bump in his pay. He wasn't even making 6 figures before this, but because he did this properly, he met the right people, he got into the right rooms, and he literally didn't even have to apply for this job. I think they may have made him put in his resume as like a formal thing to get him in the system. So that is proactive outreach. Before we can get into the nitty-gritty of template scripts and all of that stuff, as I mentioned, it does not work if you don't have your career nirvana, where you're going to, if you don't have a really clear understanding of that, and an optimized resume, ideally posted to major job boards. So step one is getting that career clarity, making sure you know each opportunity that you're presented with, or each time you share your story or articulate what you're looking for, it needs to be very clear, very concise. You have to know where you're trying to grow to. So we always start here where you want to map out your career. Now, this is one for a chief product officer. Let's say that is your dream life. Your career nirvana is being a chief product officer. Not just the job title, but the work that goes into it, the pay, the hours you work, the lifestyle, your life goals, what you want to own, the legacy you want to leave. All of the things quantifiable and qualitative that go into you and your life and making you who you want to be. That is what your endpoint, that is your goal. Now, you may not want to be a chief product officer. There are chief product officers that are only making 80 grand. There are some that are making 500 grand. The chief product officer from YouTube got a $100 million bonus just to not go to Twitter. So you can fall anywheres along this spectrum. You need to know what you want and what life you want to live. So it may not be a chief product officer. You can be a senior product manager and make more than some of the CPOs out there. So you need to figure that out for you and what you want. So and again, this works for, you want to do this in any career path that you're looking for. Let's say right now you're an associate product manager and you know you want to become a senior product manager down the road. Awesome. That means the next roles that you need to be looking for is going to be a product manager to move you a little bit higher up this path here. Once you know that, everything else that we're going to do is going to be circle around this. So here's a great example of somebody in the product management space. They came to us out of college, actually, where they originally, their LinkedIn profile talked about like studying aliens. This picture got cut off here, but they were able to grow over the course of 5 years from $63,000 to $250,000 because they had this career map done and they knew with extreme clarity what they actually wanted. So they were able to go in. He knew he wanted to be at a tech company. He knew he wanted to be a senior product manager. So he got a job that allowed him to get his foot in the door right out of college, and then followed the process that you guys are going to learn today to, over the course of 8 months, get to an associate product manager to get him on that product manager career path. He also got a nice little pay bump there. And then as soon as a product manager role opened up, because he had consistently done this proactive outreach, he was able to land that job very quickly. Again, a little pay bump there. And then again, what happened? He got a little bit closer to what he was actually looking for here in terms of pay. He was able to get his first real big jump, $35,000. Again, these are very quick jumps that he's able to do here. And then unfortunately, doesn't really matter when you future-proof your career, he was laid off because of COVID. The company got scared, they downsized fairly quickly, and within a month, I think it was 26 days exactly, nothing, he didn't have to stress, he didn't have to worry, he was able to more than double his salary. This was his base salary within 5 years from college. Now when he landed this, is worth 7 figures in his total comp. So these are the things that once you have that career path mapped out and you know where you're actually going to, it becomes much easier for you to take control and network and communicate with people who can help you get there. Super, super important part. Most people overlook this, and we can always tell when somebody's overlooked it because their networking, their proactive outreach never works ever. So I can't emphasize that enough. So once you have that clarity, then you build your compelling narrative through your resume and your LinkedIn profile on job boards. So once you've got that mapped out, you want to research 15 to 20 job descriptions that are going to match that next step of your career map. Once you've done that, you can identify the skills, the tools, the experience, everything that they're asking for that's repeated across those role descriptions. that's going to create about 95% of your resume is going to come from that. And then your LinkedIn profile is just a copy and paste. Having that, you're going to know that it's perfect. I don't know if you guys can hear my dog in the background here, but you're going to know this resume, your LinkedIn profile is perfect, not because a resume writer told you it was good, not because a coach told you it was good, but when you actually have recruiters and hiring managers reaching out to you with the opportunities that map exactly what you want on your career Nirvana map. Very easy litmus test there. It's not good because somebody tells you it's good. It's good because you have people actively reaching out to you. So once you have done those things right, once you've done those things properly, one, it's going to be a lot easier for you to network because you're going to have people actively reaching out to you. But then two, it's going to organize all your thoughts so that you're able to show exactly how you can provide value for a company, for a project, for a team, whatever the case may be. So we're going to walk through, once you've done those two steps, and again, I can't overemphasize this enough, I know when somebody has skipped one or both of those steps because their networking always falls flat. That's where most people fail, is they don't do that pre-work. It is so, so, so important for you to do that. So once you've done that, who do you reach out to and how do you find them? So there are 6 buckets of outreach, and this is going to be the people that you can connect with who can directly impact your job search and help you move closer to your goals. So this includes recruiters, hiring managers, and executives. I should have bolded executives here. This is a very important person or a group of people that most people overlook because it tends to be the scariest one, but it is the most valuable, hands down. We'll go into that a little bit more later. So you want to reach out to those folks. Former colleagues, friends, alumni from colleges or boot camps, acquaintances, and user groups. So you are going to operate in each of these buckets until you find the ones that are most fruitful for you. Everybody has different lives. Everybody has different starting points with each of these buckets. You want to find what works best for you and then double down on those buckets, okay? Oftentimes, this is regardless of who you know today. When you go into niche specific user groups, they are often the most effective networking platform, bucket, whatever you want to call it, for you to move your career forward very quickly. You can find these user groups pretty much anywhere now. Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups, Discord, Slack channels, Reddit, especially Reddit in the tech world, Meetup, different things like that. And once you're in, Women in Product is actually a great one, even if you are not necessarily a product manager, just within tech, a really great one, really thriving. Once you're in a group like this, you want to do these 4 things. You want to engage, you want to contribute, you want to set up exploratory calls, and you want to be supported. So first and foremost, when you join these groups, follow the culture of each group. Each group will have its own culture. But very quick introduction. Hey, my name is Katie. I'm a product manager, or I'm a software engineer, whatever you are. And I have about 5 years of experience in the blank industry. I'm now looking to make a pivot to doing XYZ. I love it because of ABC. By the way, if there's any way I can help any of you here, please let me know. Quick introduction, offer to be helpful. Once you've done that, then you want to engage, contribute, and support. So you've got to remember that you're looking for people that you can nerd out about the same things. You most likely are a nerd about something in your life. And if you are not, there's nothing that you love more than all of the other people around you. You need to go find that thing. Hopefully make it part of your career. So these are people who are going to like similar things that you like. So when you come across something, a podcast, a YouTube video, an article, whatever the case may be, share it and contribute to the groups. Give them value when you learn something, when you hear something, when you see something. And then other people in that group are going to be doing the same thing. You want to like, comment, support those people, engage in conversations with them. And then every so often, you will have hiring managers or even just members who are going to post about openings that they hear about. That is when, as soon as somebody posts something about an opening that's relevant to you, you can immediately set up an exploratory call with those individuals, or name drop somebody who says, hey, talk to so-and-so because you would be perfect for this job or for this opening. So once you've done that, think of it like a garden that you want to continue to cultivate these user groups. Now, the other major bucket that obviously is far more well-known or far more formal is making sure that you are speaking with recruiters, hiring managers, and again, very important, executives at specifically your dream companies. You've got your career nirvana map. You should have some dream companies, people or companies that have core values that really resonate with you, companies that have missions that align with your life mission, the legacy that you want to leave. So once you know your dream companies, the companies that you really admire, that you'd like to work with, then you can get really targeted in your networking, in your proactive outreach. So you can use Boolean search strings on LinkedIn. And I won't go too much into like the nitty-gritty of how to do this. One, because I think a lot of you already know, but two, there's a whole help document. You can just literally Google Boolean search on LinkedIn and it'll bring you right to their help desk that has exactly how to do this. But what you want to do is know who is it that you want to reach out to. Internally, recruiters are going to typically be called something like recruiter or talent acquisition. And all you have to do is put in those titles of the people that you want to connect with and the company and the industry and the type of job, like whatever the case may be, for you to get to the hiring managers and the executives that would potentially be either your peers or people that are above you. Very important for you to reach out to those individuals. I don't want you guys to panic about that. We've got the scripts coming up that you can literally take a screenshot of and use when you reach out to them. It's super important for you to cultivate relationships with those individuals. This is typically the quickest way to do it, is just on LinkedIn. A lot of times you'll get their emails as well. And when you do this properly, depending on your profile, again, you need to have it optimized. This is, again, why I know if somebody has skipped step 1 or 2, it's because they don't have a good profile, so they don't end up actually hearing back from anybody. The person would have to burn too many calories to figure out what it is that they have going on or why it would make sense to talk. Make sure you do that first. Then once you have your profile optimized and your search parameters are good, you should connect with and hear from about 20 to 40% of the individuals that you reach out to. So it's not, this is never a big shocker where somebody who they had a really clear plan of where they were going, they had a really great profile. When they did their outreach, I think this was within the first 2 weeks, they were able to hear back from about 60% of the companies that they wanted to work with. And these are, decent sized companies, decent people they would be connecting with. So what do you say once you are connected with those individuals? What do you say when you're trying to connect with them? So it depends who you are speaking with. With recruiters, you want to be super straightforward. Oftentimes you want to attach your resume. We always recommend attaching like the PDF nice version of it. You can use something like resume.io to make quote unquote pretty version of it. Always have a call to action to set up a time to speak. Offer a few times that you're available to speak. And if somebody gave you their name and said, hey, speak to so-and-so because they're in charge of recruiting for this position, you want to name drop if you can. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this. It's fairly straightforward as a framework here for you to use, and you can just take a screenshot of it. This is going to be what you use, again, to reach out to recruiters. With recruiters, it's very important for you to be very direct. So you can just say, hey, I came across your profile when I was looking at opportunities with this company. I really admire them because of their core values. They align with mine, and you can insert experience if it's relevant. And it's just a very simple, I'm reaching out to you directly because of insert the position. You want to make their life as easy as possible. Position within company, if it's relevant, you can add the location there and then ask them to hop on a call. So just say, I'd love the opportunity to chat with you for 15 to 20 minutes to learn more about the position, as well as share a bit about how my background could potentially be a good fit. Make your life easier. I've taken the liberty of attaching my resume as well. Do you have some time to chat on blank, blank, or blank? If none of those work, please send over your availability and I'll do my best to accommodate. Thank you in advance. Now, again, This is why it's so important that you have a good resume, an optimized resume before you do this, because if you don't, or your profile isn't good, you're going to reach out to somebody and they're going to look at your profile and say, nope, not worth my time. And here's something really important to remember about recruiters. They get paid when they fill a job. So they're not going to waste time talking to somebody if they don't think that they have a job for you, because they won't get paid. So every so often will somebody be kind? Absolutely. But as a general rule, there is a very low barrier to entry in the recruiting world. So for every great recruiter that there is, there's 10 that are terrible. You want to make their lives as easy as humanly possible. Then when you are speaking with peers, hiring managers, or executives, this obviously is going to be a little bit different. These people are not getting paid based on their ability to source good talent. So you're not going to start with how you are a good talent source for them. You want to talk about them first. Share why their background resonates with you. It's okay to be vulnerable in these. Don't send life story, like sob stories by any means, but it is okay to be a little bit more vulnerable with these folks. Include a call to action to book a call. If you have a resource that makes sense, that's a good thing to add in. And then this is actually a really great bonus tip for along the line, down the road of conversation. Don't start with this in the opening of your opening message, but if it's a really good idea to ask somebody, hey, do you guys get a referral bonus? Because I would really love to, mention your name so that you can get that bonus before I apply. And then they have a vested interest in you moving along the process as well. So for these individuals, you can use something like this. This is actually a very effective template that we found for reaching out again to hiring managers and especially executives who are further along your career map, people who are where you want to be. So it's just a very simple, I came across your profile while I was doing some research on either the title or the industry, whatever's most relevant. I have to admit your background is extremely impressive and it's amazing what you've been able to accomplish so far in your career. You've really built a career that I hope to emulate one day. The reason for my note is because I'm currently exploring the next steps within my own career, and I recently began taking meetings with companies where there's mutual interest. There are several things that I'm still slightly unsure of how to think through as I evaluate my options. I would love the chance to pick your brain about how you got to where you are today and how you made the decision to pick the companies you worked for. I'm sure that you're busy, so any chance you can dedicate time would be greatly appreciated. And again, call to action. Do you have some time to talk at one of the following times? Give them a couple options. If those times don't fit your schedule, please let me know your availability and I'll accommodate. I really look forward to hearing from you, and more importantly, thank you in advance. Very simple message that you can send out. You can tweak this as needed based on what's relevant for you, the position, the title, the industry, etc. Or if you know anybody that it makes sense to mention. And then, of course, another really powerful bucket is reaching out to people that you've either lost touch with, or people that you have some relationship to, but you're not necessarily close, but are working at your dream companies, or working in the industry you want to transition into, or have the job title that's somewhere along your career nirvana path. Or it's just a very simple, hey, it's been a while since we last talked. It looks like you're up to some fun things over at Google. How are they treating you? How's life overall? Would love to know if you have some time to chat. Do any of these times work for you? If not, feel free to send me over your availability and I would be happy to accommodate. Again, the framework here, it's the same framework each time. It's just how you are introducing or how you are asking for that call just shifts slightly depending on who you're speaking with. And while you're waiting for those folks to respond, you should be, again, cultivating those user groups, engaging in those groups, providing value in those groups, setting up exploratory calls from those groups. And then also, again, reaching out to these people that you know, specifically folks that are within the fields that make sense for you to talk to them. And of course, applying to jobs. You don't have to stick with one platform. I mentioned this earlier. Oftentimes on LinkedIn, people will share their email address. A quick Google search will pull it up. If you're really looking to do quantity, you can even use something like Snowvio or Hunter.io. There's a ton of different softwares out there that will give you, oftentimes just within a free trial, give you email addresses that you're looking for. And then this is super important, especially if you have the same tendencies that I do, and reaching out to people is more of an overwhelm than a fun activity for you. Something that you want to keep in mind is people who follow these steps properly, they typically will feel that overwhelm about reaching out. Then a really cool thing happens that their response rates on these things are fairly decent, again, 20 to 40%. So because they're reaching out to people consistently, they end up getting overwhelmed about how many people actually respond and how many conversations they're having. So obviously you get to choose which overwhelm. Hopefully you are going to choose the second one about having too many opportunities versus being afraid of opportunities. And here is a great example. I mentioned reaching out to executives, C-level executives especially. When you do this and you build those connections, first of all, not as many people reach out to those folks because they're scared of them, they're intimidated, but also these are the people that can go tell your hiring manager, hey, I like so-and-so, you should really talk to him. You are going to build better relationships with your hiring manager when their boss says, hey, I like this person. Like it certainly gives you a leg up in the situation, which again, this is not somebody that he knew. A lot of people think networking is nepotism, or you have to know people, you have to come from good pedigree or whatever it's called. You don't. You just have to put in the work to connect with the right people and send messages that, if you're in their shoes, actually provide value for them. So the do's and don'ts of follow-up, talking about actually providing value. How often should you follow up? For how often and how many total follow-ups, there are no hard rules here, and it does vary depending on the roles that you're for. You don't want to be too pushy. You don't want to be too passive. Typically, every 5 business days seems to be a good cadence there, following up once every 5 business days, give or take. And then how many? If you are going for a business development role or a sales role, those of you who are in sales, or if you have experience, a lot of people will say 7 follow-ups. That's not usually the number that you need in this, because first of all, as long as you're reaching out to people consistently, about 10 to 20 people per day, you typically don't need to follow up more than 3 times with folks to get a response, and you will have a fairly overwhelming number of people to talk to anyway, so you don't really need to follow up with more than 3 times. And again, put yourself in their shoes. Before you write something, before you send it, you really want to consider their experience, whether it's too many follow-ups or too little. I'm sure all of us on here, I certainly have. There have been people that I wanted to respond to, and quite frankly, their message fell to the bottom of the inbox. I said, I'll do that, but I was on my phone and whatever, it wasn't loading. Something happened and I just forgot. So you don't want to lose that momentum of somebody who may have actually been interested, but life just got in the way the moment you sent the message. A couple questions that you can ask yourself as you're drafting these is, what's in it for them? How are they feeling? What are the things that they're going through? What problems are they dealing with? What are things that you could potentially help them with, especially hiring managers? What sort of experience are they having with your messages and in life generally? And do you actually have a reason to follow up, or are you just pestering them? Ideally, you have a reason. Ideally, you've been doing other things that would show interest as well. And you want to try to make your notes, your messages to them as relevant as possible. Add value to them. Add value that show how you can add value to the company or the project that they're working on. If somebody within the company said, hey, you really should speak to so-and-so, name drop that, let them know. We're social beings, even us introverts. And when somebody you know or somebody within your team says, hey, you should talk to this person, you tend to listen to them. So here are a couple of follow-up examples. I'm not going to read through these because I do want to make sure we have plenty of time for questions at the end here. We are coming up on time. I'm just going to hover over these here. If you guys have follow-up questions or questions on the follow-ups, we can cover them at the end, but you can just screenshot each of these where, again, use them kind of as necessary, and depending on if there's been any conversation, things like that, and tweak as needed for you, your personality. And this is one where it's, don't copy and paste this one exactly. I didn't blur out, I just left the actual experience in here of, hey, any interest in discussing how, and then insert your relevant experience here. So this was somebody who had this experience that was relevant to a project that they were hiring for. And then here are some subject lines that you can use. One more thing that I did not think I needed to say, but turns out I did, from feedback from one of our previous workshops. Anytime I have all capital letters and it says something like first name, you do not have to keep those words all capitals. So let's say the person's name is Bob. You don't need to say hi, capital B, capital O, capital B. You can just write their name normally, and same for like a project or whatever is being called out there. Don't keep it in all capital letters. And then it is vital. This is something that easily gets dropped. It is vital for you to stay organized so that opportunities do not fall through the cracks, especially when you have a lot of folks reaching out to you. If any of you guys need a job tracker, you can drop your email or something in the chat, or reach out. I believe there should be some stuff going out after this. That we have a job tracker that you can use. It's just a Google sheet. Make sure you keep yourself organized there. This is a perfect example. This was somebody several points throughout their process, both in networking and then after the interview, and then also after the job, after getting the job offer, they had to wait far longer than even we expected. So talking about the do's and don'ts of following up properly, they had to wait out these delays properly. They actually ended up making about $55,000 more than they actually expected. They were happy with 125 to 135,000, but because they leveraged those negotiation skills and followed up properly, again, at each of those different checkpoints, they were able to land 165,000 plus a bonus plus a title that they actually wanted. So very important that you stay organized and follow up properly. And again, I can't overemphasize this enough. While networking is one of the most important steps, your transition, your job search is going to fall apart if it's not supported by those other 4 steps that we talked about. Very important for you to know where you're going. Make sure you have that compelling narrative on your profiles. Then do your networking. Make sure then you master that interview, and then negotiate a competitive offer so that you're not getting paid. From that example earlier, $85,000 for a $130,000 job. And when you do follow all of those steps, again, we know whether or not you followed them, because the results come every time. This was somebody, she was able to get a $30,000 pay increase, the title she wanted, and most importantly, work-life balance. And this is a pretty cool one because this was pre-COVID, and I don't think their company usually let directors work from home, but that was super important to her, so she was able to leverage that, negotiate that at the end there in step 5. That's something that for folks now, as more and more people are going back to the office, if working remotely is important for you, your life holistically, quality of your life, that's not something that you have to sacrifice. You just have to be able to, again, go through these steps properly and know what's really important for you in that career nirvana. Again, here's somebody following each of the steps, networking properly. They were able to negotiate from $65 an hour to $90 an hour, AKA almost a $50,000 pay increase, and the title that they wanted because they went through the steps properly. And somebody else, Cynthia, I showed her earlier on as well. She was able to go from 185 to a 275 base, plus again, her total comp, because she knew the right people who were able to sign off on these things, ended up growing to about $560,000 in her total comp, which is actually a little bit more than we even expected, about $50,000 more. And even if it's your very first 6-figure job, I mentioned somebody earlier on where that's exactly, their first 6-figure job was $100,000 more than what they had been making. So it does not matter where you are in the spectrum, it works. The system works if you actually take action, actually implement. This was somebody else I mentioned. you get overwhelmed by the number of offers, by the number of connections, versus the opposite of being overwhelmed by having to accept the first offer. This was somebody who they had the tough decision of waiting, holding out on 5 major offers that came in, but they were able to hold out for their dream job and negotiated a $70,000 pay increase to get their first 6-figure job at 148. So at this point, you really have 2 options. Option 1, go on your loan, go at it alone, miss out on tens of thousands of dollars. For some people, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars. Figuring this stuff out on your own, getting frustrated, ghosted more times than you need to, and getting rejected, essentially wasting your time along the way. Or option 2, learn the proven system from people who have not only done it, but actually mastered it and are getting proven results every single month with students. So if you do go with option 2 and you want to use this method and you need some added help along the way and you would like to work with us, here's what people typically, in terms of speed and results, what it looks like. By the first week, we work fairly quickly to have your career nirvana defined, your career path mapped out, and your next jobs researched. By the second week, we have your resume and LinkedIn profile built, optimized, and live, sent out to job boards and published on LinkedIn. Then by the third week, we have messages sent out. These are your proactive outreach messages that we just went through to generate qualified conversations with people. Again, the people who will directly impact your career. And then typically by the 4th week, we are prepping you for interviews that come from that outreach so that you can confidently handle whatever questions are thrown at you. And that's all within our first month. So if that is something that you'd like to do over the next 2 to 3 months, this is not something that you should do if it's something that's coming, 12 months down the road. We actually asked our coaches to set aside some time to speak with you to see if and how we can help. So we'll typically talk for about 45 minutes, map out the exact action plan for you to follow so you can secure competitive job offers going through each of those 5 steps. But we do not like to hold these calls with everybody. This is for you if you are committed, you're coachable, and you're self-aware. We don't have a hard time. We actually just don't work with people who have a victim mentality or people who are not coachable. They think they know it all, or they give sporadic effort here and there. This is not for you. You have to be committed, coachable, and self-aware. You need to be somebody who takes ownership over yourself, over your career, and you actually want to grow your salary. You also, I mentioned, no scrolling TikTok throughout the day. You need to actually be good at what you are doing and know that you could do more, solve more problems, give more value if you were just given the right opportunities. And most importantly here, you have to have skin in the game. We started off by talking about you have to take massive action to see the results that we're talking about. So if that does sound like you can check out this link here, and I'll keep it up for just a minute. It's just careersprout.com/full coaching. It goes through this process a little bit more in depth, and about halfway down the page, there is a spot for you to apply for a strategy session. And if your application's not accepted, we typically are pretty good at knowing based on that whether or not we can help you, or whether or not it's the right time to help you, I should say. If it's not, we will cancel the call, but send you some added alternative resources that will help you along the way. So only book it, again, if you are looking over the next 2 to 4 months to land that job. Don't do it if it's something that's going to be 12 months down the road. If that's the case and you just need some added resources, you can send us an email or reach out to me on LinkedIn, whatever is easiest for you, and we can make sure that you guys get those things sent out. So with that, I guess I can just copy and paste. I'll have to stop sharing here so that I can see you guys again or see the chat. Let's see here. With that, are there any questions that you guys have, or I should say, what questions do you guys have on any of the 5 steps that we just talked about, whether it's getting clarity on your career, building your resume and LinkedIn profile, the networking piece, especially, obviously that proactive outreach, or the steps that come after that. Okay, maybe you've gone through some of these things, or you're now starting to get interviews. How do you master the interview process? And then, of course, the last piece there is negotiating your salary. So any questions that you guys have on really any or all of the above? You can either put them in the chat here. Oh, look at that. I went about 10 minutes longer than I expected. You can put them in the chat here, or just go ahead and you can unmute yourself if that is easier, if it's a bit of a longer or more nuanced question. But if not, we can actually hop off a couple minutes early here. Let's see here. I think Alyssa is still on. What? Awesome, cool. What was your path to get into the role you currently have? Great question. So I did not necessarily take a normal path. When I graduated college, my original plan was to get a PhD in psychology. I wanted to be a therapist and help military vets integrate into the civilian world after combat. I was really fortunate that I had a mentor step into my life who said, I shouldn't go take out student loans to do that, because business was going to be a part of whatever I did. So I should just start a business and use that to pay for school if I still wanted to go to school. So I did that, and I started a digital marketing agency, and that over the last couple of years has transformed. And I now am part of a company that invests in businesses that can help military vets integrate into the civilian world after combat. That company partnered with Career Sprout, and now we are opening up, hopefully later this year, a whole track that's specifically designed to help military vets. So I took a far more entrepreneurial path than most folks do. So yes, that's the short version of the path that I took to get here. Let's see, Frank, can you please send me the job tracker? Yes, let me. I will go ahead. Actually, I believe we have a link to that. I can send it to all of you guys right now. There we go. I will drop the link for that tracker right here so that anybody who needs it, rather than individually emailing you, all about efficiency here. What best practices do you recommend for negotiating salary? Great question. So first and foremost, you've got to make sure you've gone through each of those 4 steps before the negotiation process. So you should have somebody internally kind of champion you along because you've networked with them. And then you've got to have a consultative interview process where you are not just talking about yourself the whole time. You are actively asking questions of the interviewer to find out what problems you can solve, and really clearly articulating how you are poised to solve those problems for the company or the team or the project, whatever the case may be. And then once you've gone through all of that, along the way, they would have already asked you, hey, what are your salary expectations? Typically that happens before you get all the way to the negotiation part. So you should have done your research on what your skills are actually worth in the market. What is a reasonable salary for you and your experience and your skills and the value that you are going to provide for this company? Irrelevant of what, it doesn't matter what you're making right now, it's what your skills or the skills you have just acquired here, what are they actually worth? Once you've got that range and you share that with them, they may give you a number, as they often do, that is outside of that range. Let's say you want $150,000 and they offer you $110,000. Cool. What you want to do is offer them 3 alternatives where you can still be very grateful for the opportunity that they offered you. You can be very grateful for anything, but then you're going to give them 3 options as a counter offer. And we almost always recommend, unless they give you something that is so beyond like what you even asked for, which does happen occasionally. That's our hiring process, where we will actually get people to ask for more. I can go into that if people are interested, but I don't want to get sidetracked here. We'll give them, you give them a 3 option rebuttal or counter offer. Option 1 is a much higher salary. So the high end of that range that you offered to them, that you shared with them earlier. Option number 2 is more of a mid-range counter, but has the perks that are really important to you. So this may mean more paid time off, or performance-based bonuses, or the title that is going to set you up for a better promotion. Anything that is important to you, but isn't necessarily a dollar amount, or just isn't something that they're necessarily budget constrained around. And then option 3 is on the more medium to lower end of the salary, but get it in writing that you will reevaluate in 6 and 12 months. Again, that just kind of shows them, hey, we're in alignment here. You can add some perks in there too if you need, but let's make sure that we have in writing here that if I accomplish these things, or you can word it a couple different ways, we're going to review this in 6 months and again in 12 months, or whatever time frame makes sense based on the role, the industry, things like that, and send them those 3 offers back. And what you're doing is you're looking for a win-win. It's very important for you to keep in mind that negotiation should be a win-lose scenario. You guys should both be winning. So you want to, by giving them those 3 options, it makes them feel like they're in control. They're the one that gets to choose, but you're able to compromise and you're able to look for and find solutions, find those win-win scenarios. So I would say that's the quick version of best practices for negotiating. Let's see, if a job requires a certain number of years of experience, should that discourage you from applying? Absolutely not. Never. I mean, within reason. Don't apply for a, COO position or a C-level position if you are out of college. I mean, unless you're like starting your first job or whatever. But the number, really any of the qualifications on jobs, it's almost like you have to think of it almost as though it is your 6-year-old, 7-year-old son or daughter, niece or nephew, whoever you know that's 6 or 7 years old, writing their wish list to Santa. The people who are writing these job descriptions oftentimes aren't even attached to, they don't even have experience in that job. They don't actually know. So they're getting it from templates. They're getting these dream lists from people who are like, oh yeah, it'd be awesome if we could hire somebody with 12 years of experience for, $15 an hour. That would be great for our P&L statement. Throw that on there. It is like the equivalent of somebody writing a 6-year-old writing a wish list to Santa. Are you going to get them on an iPhone? Probably not. But could you get them the doll that they want or the dog, whatever? Yes, there are things within reason. And when you go through these steps properly, almost all of the case studies that we shared with you guys today were people who were going in with 0 years of experience in whatever the role, sometimes in whatever the industry was that they were in. They had 0 years of experience, but they were able to transfer skills, or in some cases, they didn't even have transferable skills. In some cases, it was, hey, I can prove to you how great I am. Wesley's a great example of that, where he was able to come in and prove to them, again, it only took him 5 years to get to 7 figures. We've had people do it quicker than that. But he was able to do that 5 years just out of college. So it is not necessary for you to have all of the things that they're asking for on a job description. What's more important is that you are happy, humble, and hungry, and that you can prove to them how you can get those skills, get that experience, get whatever they need very quickly. Investing in yourself, doing something like the 4 Geeks Academy, where you are a consistent life learner, so much more important and so much more valuable. And put yourself in the hiring manager's shoes. If you have somebody, let's say, with 5 years of experience, and they have the ego of somebody with 5 years of experience, and they're applying for this, you're applying for the same role, but you don't have 5 years of experience, but you prove to them that you are happy, humble, and hungry, and you will work your butt off, you're going to be the better candidate. Almost 9 times out of 10, you will be the better candidate because of those intangible things, especially if you do this networking, this proactive outreach part, and then really take on a consultative role in that interview process. all bets are off for people who are going in and nervous and bragging about themselves the whole time. No interviewer, nobody in the team wants to hear about how great you are and bragging about yourself. And that's what a lot of other candidates do. So great question. You definitely do not need to hold tried and true to any of the things that are on the application. Again, put yourself in the hiring manager's shoes. Make sure that you genuinely believe in yourself. That's a lot of the folks that we work with. That's arguably the biggest thing that we work with them on, is just making sure that they actually believe in themselves and they actually see what they're really worth in the market, what their skills are really worth. If I don't have a LinkedIn account yet, should I create one now? Yes, absolutely, is the short answer to that, 100%. Awesome. It looks like that may be, it looks like I may have direct message here. What happens if you don't know your career nirvana? A lot of people don't. A lot of folks come to us. Actually, we've had a really big influx of people who are, dozen years into their career realizing, hey, I hate what I'm doing, or I don't even know what I'm supposed to be doing. It's very common, and this is one of those things that majority of people look back on their life after retirement, or at 80 years old, they look back and realize they never really knew what they wanted. They never thought about their life or their careers holistically, and they always just had that jumping from one job to another just for minimal pay increases or a little bit closer to home or little minor benefits of it. So if you don't know your career nirvana, find it. You need to take some time to do, it sounds kind of wonky, but like do some real soul searching. Become very curious is probably the best advice. To look at what are the things that you really have loved doing in life so far? What are the things that you have really hated doing in life? Make a list of those two things, and then look for the careers that allow you to do more of what you love and less of what you hate. It's a very simplistic way. And then go speak to people who are in those careers. Go have actual conversations who make a mock career map. It doesn't have to be final by any means, but then go reach out to those people who you don't have to know them. You can find them on LinkedIn the same way we just talked about, and have conversations. You can even use that template that we shared of reaching out to peers, hiring managers, and executives. If you go watch the replay, you can pretty much send that message to folks and let them know, hey, a shorter version of it would be, I want to be you in 20 years, or hey, I want to be you in 5, 10, 15 years, however much time. Do you have any advice for your younger self? Or could you share with me what it's actually like to be XYZ? That was actually something I did pretty much right out of college. I reached out to half a dozen Fortune 500 C-level executives and just said, hey, I want to be you in 20 years. Do you have any advice for your younger self? And that, I think all but one of them responded to me, and they took an insane amount of time. Maybe it didn't take them a lot of time. Maybe it just was off the top of their head. Probably was, but they took the time to write me advice for what they wish they knew when they were 22 years old. And it's some of the best, most valuable information that I've ever gotten in my life. And I keep it saved in a Google Doc. I would pay more for that one Google Doc than my entire college tuition, college education, whatever it's called, because people genuinely want to help. People genuinely enjoy giving back, especially successful people. That was probably one of the coolest things that I was ever. I actually heard a Steve Jobs interview around the same time when he said, when I was younger, I always thought it was a detriment for me to be so young and want to do things. And Steve Jobs said when he was young, nobody ever said no to him because they were just so enthralled by this idea that a 12-year-old kid wanted to do this, or a 20-year-old kid wanted to do this or that. And people helped. And it's been a really cool experience to see that doesn't actually stop with age. If you are just really humble and hungry and gracious when you talk to people, they genuinely want to help. They genuinely want to share their story, their mistakes, what they've learned along the way. And you can shortcut a whole lot by doing that. You can shortcut a whole lot of mistakes that average people make. Cool. Any other questions? I just realized I'm blinding you guys here. I don't normally do calls at night. I've never seen the sun at this angle. All right, it looks like that may be it. Let me just check the direct messages here. Yeah, I think that's it. So guys, if you have any other questions, anything comes up along the way, you guys can feel free to reach out. You can reach out to me directly, either on LinkedIn or I'll put my email address here. You can reach out to me directly there. And yeah, super excited for you guys. I know you are learning a lot and opening up a lot of doors, or potentially, I should say, depending on how much action you take, potentially opening up a lot of doors and really changing the trajectory of your career. We have this saying that, you know, you're one job offer away from completely changing the trajectory of your career and life. So super excited for you guys. And anything that comes up down the road, would love to send over resources, or if you guys need coaching, whatever the case may be, definitely feel free to reach out, and look forward to connecting with you guys soon. All right.
Thank you, Katie.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Have a good one, guys.
Bye, everyone.